Hey family, welcome to Sergeant Dorsey Speaks live at 5. It is Thursday, so happy Thursday. We're almost there, right? The week is almost over, and I am happy about that. I have got so much going on until I think I need a calibration, a recalibration. Hey Barry, are you still in my time zone, Barry? Are you coming back to my neck of the woods anytime soon? Let me know because I think we're supposed to break bread. I'm not sure. So let me know. Yeah, it's a lot going on. And I completely forgot. So forgive me to remind you guys to come sit down with me today. I didn't put out my standard invite this morning. And okay, Barry, you're in Dallas. Gotcha. Didn't put out my standard invite this morning. Oof, I feel like, okay, so I'm going to date myself for a minute because when I was a little girl, like, an infant, right? I kind of remember watching the Ed Sullivan show. And I remember that they used to have this, juggler come on, right? And they used to, spin little sticks with plates on the end of them. Does anybody know what I'm talking about on the Ed Sullivan show? Any other people used to watch it as an infant from your bassinet? Um, that's what I feel like. I feel like that person. Hey, Stephen, good afternoon. I feel like that person spinning those little sticks that kind of, bend and sway with the plates on top. And then the guy would come and, do that to the plate. Yeah, so that none of them fell and he could keep it going. That's how I feel right now. I feel like I need a vacation, right? I need a vacation from my vacation because every day is the weekend. Stephen, you remember that juggler? Okay, cool. So I'm not the only one. Okay, you were 5 or 6. I was in my bassinet, but I have visions of it in my mind's eye as a child. That's my story, Stephen, and I'm sticking to it. But anyway, yeah, it's there's a lot going on personally with me. I'm doing every 60, 90 days I do a re-eval and see where I am, with my professional life, if you will, and where I want to be and what I want to do and how do I get there. And so right now I'm struggling. Ooh, a warrior queen is struggling, you guys. So I need 2 or 3 of you to stand in agreement with me because I'm exhausted mentally and emotionally. And so, that's why I was a little late coming on today because I just had to really get my mind right and my face before I could come to you. Not a whole lot went on this week in terms of police related news, but okay, Stephen, I would have had to have been 3 for cognitive memory on the Ed Sullivan show. Okay, that's what you say. I beg to differ, sir. um, you know, this political situation is revving up. We had 2 days of debates this week that kind of really dominated the news. We had that tragic shooting over the weekend, last weekend in Northern California, Gilroy, California, where you know someone shot up a garlic festival, the annual garlic festival in Gilroy, and that dominated the news for a few days, the weekend and maybe Monday. And then by Tuesday, it was, they weren't really talking about it anymore, right? Because listen, just like any other shooting, everybody's all bent out of shape and they're all worked up until they're not all worked up. And so I'm so over these mass shootings, these mass killer situations. And Michael, I'm looking at what you said to me. Stay with the plan. Yeah, I have to remind myself, Michael, that it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So, I just need to have somebody come behind me and wind me up. And then, as I'm going down, I'll be okay, Michael. I appreciate you, though. But, I was over these mass shootings when the guy shot up the school with the 22 babies, right? When somebody can shoot up daycare or preschool with 22 babies that are killed and nothing gets done. Nobody seems to have an appetite for fixing this system. Then, I'm going to stay out of their business because it seems to me like they're okay with it. If they really, the powers that be really wanted to do something about, people who are running around with AK-47s and other types of assault rifles and weapons, whatever you call them, because I'm not a gun nut, so I may be getting it wrong, but what do? I mean, if they like it, I love it, right? And so I don't know how many more. I don't know what the magic number is. There was, a whole lot of people shot and killed in Las Vegas. 22 babies, schools being shot up. And so I don't know that there's anything that will shock the senses enough to really create a process, a mechanism to get assault rifles out of the hands of millennials, 19 years old with an assault rifle. Why would you need that? And magazines that have 100-round clips. Why do you need that? I don't know. I'm all for protecting yourself and Second Amendment rights and all of that. And which reminds me, you guys saw that video I put up on my timeline of the gentleman who, was a Second Amendment guy, and he went to his front door with his gun and wound up getting shot by the police because they were responding to a burglary call at a residential situation. And yeah, I talked about it a little bit on my podcast. I think I talked about it. So if you want to hear more about that, but you probably saw the video, and I only posted the video because the homeowner, he survived, but he was hot with that deputy sheriff that came and shot him, and he was just cussing him out. And yeah, I thought that was entertaining. So podcast dropped on Tuesday. You know the drill. Check it out. Sergeant Dorsey Speaks on the podcast platform of your choice for that story and others. So, Stephen, I don't know why anybody would need to have 100 rounds, right? And so this kid, this 19-year-old goes into the Garlic Festival, and he came in, it sounds like, about 15 minutes before it was due to end on the last day. It was a weekend event. He cut through a chain link fence and entered the grounds that way and just indiscriminately started shooting, in every which way. And so thankfully there were police that were working that venue that were right there on scene and probably saved some lives. But I don't think this administration, and I don't think the government, the National Rifle Association is very powerful. I mean, they got a lot of stuff going on allegedly in the news, and it sounded like they were about to lose some of their potency, if you will. I don't know how long it's going to take that to kick in, if they really are being weakened because of the shenanigans that they've been involved in with some of the Russian stuff. I don't know. But until, these very powerful people who lobby for folks to carry around elephant guns, until somebody is able to neutralize their position in that narrative, then this stuff is going to continue to happen. And so I don't know how many more, people are going to have to be killed in a situation. It's almost gotten to the point, and I'm not a crowds kind of person anyway, but it's almost gotten to the point where you should just almost stay home, right? What's safe? A movie theater? Schools are not safe. Yearly festivals of all sorts of varying types, concerts. Where can you go? And when's a good time to leave? The last day, is that the day when, you shouldn't go? You go on the first day and you stay home on the last day? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. And like I said, I'm all opposed. I'm all for people protecting themselves, but I don't understand the need for a gun that can shoot a gazillion rounds in 3 seconds. It doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, that's that. So that wears me down. That wears me down. This political environment that we're in right now is wearing me out, because I'm seeing on social media, like many of you are seeing, all the back and forth about these, 100 people that that have been donning the stage for these debates. I'll be so glad when they have a primary so they can whittle down this field, because I'm so over it. I'm sick of all these people. And it's dominating the news, and they're all saying, nothing. They're all making a bunch of promises that none of them are going to keep, because listen, that's why when people ask me, I ever think about running for politics, I say no, because I think it takes a special kind of breed. And however you may go into the game, I don't know if you're able to successfully get out. I've already managed to MacGyver my way through, 20 years on the LAPD, and I like to think I got out with a semblance of, sanity. I've certainly enjoyed longevity, because I've been retired for a long, long time. I'm thankful of that. I paid attention to the stats, and, they say the longer you stay in that field, the less likely you are to have on the other end. So I think I got out right at the right time. But I'm gonna tell you, this political situation, you guys, you better pay attention. I'm not, a proponent of any particular person, certainly not right now, because it's too early. I'm a anybody but girl right now. Anybody but little Tink Tink, right? Because this situation that has been created right now is so intense, and God forbid if this guy gets another 4 years, that means more appointments, lifetime appointments to the Supreme Court. And you see, if you're paying attention, what kind of damage is being done over there by this Supreme Court with a 5-4 conservative bent right now. Could you imagine if the Supreme Court got to, 6-3 conservatives lifetime? I was saying this, during the 2020 pre-election craziness that was going on, that if no other reason, SCOTUS was the reason to vote. If no other reason, SCOTUS, because of the lifetime appointment situation. And so now you've got all these acting people in various positions. You've got lobbyists who are heads of varying departments and entities, and it's bad. It's bad. And so to tell you the truth, I have not really watched the news. Certainly I don't watch local news. And I'm getting to the point where I can't even really watch cable news for very long. I may do Rachel 2 or 3 times a week. She used to be my go-to every night, because, I get the real deal from Rachel Maddow on MSNBC. I like her show. I like her due diligence. I like her research. But I had to cut back on all of that, because it's just too much. And so I'm looking out for my mental health right now, and I'm taking a lot of mental health breaks from a lot of different things. Everything except for you guys, because you make me smile, you make me happy. And so yeah, if all else is wearing me down, come Thursday at 5 o'clock, I get rejuvenated for just a little bit. So I appreciate you guys. I talked on my podcast about upcoming Amber Guyger trial. And so I want to talk a little bit about it here today, because, not everybody is on every medium. And so Amber Guyger's trial is coming up very, very soon. And folks, you need to get ready. You need to get ready, because I believe that she's going to be found not guilty. Okay. And the reason that I say this is because, that's what I believe. But I see evidence of it. I've been seeing it for some time progressing. And there was an article that I'm going to share with you that I talked about, where it says over in Dallas how the media is really obsessing, not so much over the trial, but over whether or not she'll get a fair trial, Amber. Not so much about, they're not obsessing about Botham Jean and the fact that he should have never been killed sitting in his own apartment, minding his own business. The Dallas media, and I don't know who runs the media in Dallas and, who they're behind, right? But the Dallas media is very concerned, and they've had many articles very recently leading up to this trial. And so they don't have jurors picked yet. Jurors are paying attention to what's being flooded in the news in Dallas about, can she get a fair trial? Will she get a fair trial? How fair will her trial be? They've had several articles written about that very fact. And so, that in addition to what I feel in my gut about her not being found guilty by a jury of her peers, makes me think that, is the fix in? There was an article on May 8th published in the Dallas News, and the headline said, "Can Amber Guyger get a fair trial in Dallas for the shooting of Botham Jean?" That was the headline. And there are other articles very similar. There was an op-ed that was written by Amber Guyger's aunt that was in the Dallas News. And in this op-ed, her aunt is saying what an amazing person Amber Guyger is and how she's not racist and, all of what you would expect an aunt to say, right? So there's that. There was another report on the news there. It's a WFAA, which is a Dallas ABC affiliate. And this was, again, talking about whether or not Amber Guyger could get a fair trial. Her attorneys were wondering during this WFAA broadcast about whether or not their client could get a fair trial. And so while it seems to be a lot being said about she needs a fair trial, I'm not really seeing that same kind of concern about Botham Jean's family getting a fair trial. Fort Worth Star-Telegram published an article, and this headline said, "Ex-cop Amber Guyger can get a fair murder trial in Dallas." Now, this was an article that the prosecutors were commenting on because, they couldn't just let that other side stand and have their say and not have a response back. And then the Fort Worth Star-Telegram published behind the attorney's headline, "She can get a fair trial." They came back with another article, and this time it was several published letters that were put out in that Star-Telegram, and it said, Amber Guyger can't get a fair trial, and here's why. And then they had all these published letters. So, and then lastly, there's a CBS affiliate who interviewed some Dallas attorneys to get their opinion. And yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. So I'm not expecting there to be any real justice for Botham Jean. But anyway, the trial is coming, and so just brace yourself. Brace yourself. Also, last night, I don't know who watched the debate. You can chime in and let me know if you got a chance to see the debate. Who is sending me all these memes? Donnie, stop it. Are you kidding me? You just sent me like 7 or 8 gifts. Stop it, Donnie. I was watching the debate for a little bit last night, and they started talking about Pantaleo, the NYPD officer who is, we've been waiting for weeks now for this civilian review board to come back with a determination about whether or not Pantaleo keeps his job. I don't know if they're just waiting for people to forget that this is even a thing. Maybe they are, because that's what we do, right? We have short-term memory. And somebody told me, somewhere it's written, it only takes 48 hours, a 48-hour cycle before people change channels and move on to the next thing. And so now, folks are not so outraged and not so bothered. Well, it's been weeks since this civilian review board took a break in the midst of their hearing testimony regarding Pantaleo. Remember, last I heard, NYPD had their chief medical surgeon, medical doctor. They have their own medical doctor on the NYPD. And he said that Eric Garner died because of his medical condition. He was asthmatic, he was diabetic, he was suffering from hypertension, and he was obese. And that's why he died. So, I don't know, but 2 days before he was choked to death, he was all that. And, he was still here. So I'm not really sure. But that's what their medical doctor said in the midst of this hearing. And then they took a break for whatever reason. They took a break. And so de Blasio was answering some questions last night during the debate about whether or not, or why exactly, why is Pantaleo still on the job? And he did what, police chiefs and mayors do, code talk, double speak. And he said that I'm confident that there's going to be justice for the family, for Gwen Carr, Eric Garner's mother, that there's going to be justice for the family. Well, you know, that's what he said in the midst of a debate, because there wasn't going to be any follow-up. Nobody was going to ask him, how are you confident and why are you confident? And what do you know that points to this confidence that you have, right? Because what I believe is that was just something he said to get him through the moment. Factually, remember, Staten Island jury has already declined to indict Pantaleo criminally. That happened a long time ago. And remember, Barr came out on the 10 o'clock at night on the eve of the toll being, the statute being told with regards to when civil rights investigation could happen, because it's 5 years from the date of the occurrence. And so on the date, the 5-year anniversary, sometime during that day, Barr just finally came out and said, you know what, we're not doing nothing. We're not investigating it. So there are no federal civil rights concerns being addressed. The family long ago had been compensated in a civil suit. 6.4 million is what I believe they received. So what else is there left to do, Mr. de Blasio? Nothing. Pantaleo has been sitting on the desk, according to reports, for the last 5 years, earning a salary of $93,000 a year. And so my belief is, when this civilian review board comes back with their recommendation, because that's all they can do, the commissioner is going to decide ultimately if he wants to give any weight to that recommendation. And so when they come back with their recommendation, even if they say, yeah, Pantaleo, he really did use a prohibited chokehold and he should not be a police officer, the police commissioner can say, okay, thank you. Thank you for that recommendation, civilian review board. But I see things differently, because I talked to my doctor, and my doctor, the chief surgeon over here, said that no, Eric Garner died because he was obese and asthmatic. So thank you, though. I appreciate that. Appreciate all the weeks and the work that you did. But Pantaleo gets to keep his job. And so I don't know how old he is, and I don't know how long he's been on the job. But what I do know is that if he's been there for the last 5 years unencumbered, I don't see why he can't stay there a little bit longer. And I don't know how much longer he would actually need to retire. I don't know how much longer Pantaleo would need to be eligible for a service pension. So, yeah, I'm not believing that there's going to be any justice for Miss Gwen Carr, the mother of Eric Garner, seeing as how they haven't been able to provide any justice for that family in 5 years. I'm not really sure what could happen in the next, month or whatever before they resume this hearing that they're having. So I'm looking at all the chatter that you guys conversation you're having without me about Pantaleo and Eric Garner and the Lucy cigarettes. And so let me say this, because this is why I shared with you the article that I put out in the LA Sentinel with regards to the ban that's currently moving around the nation, ban on menthol tobacco products. And if you read the article, it speaks specifically to the fact that menthol tobacco products are generally used by Black and brown folks. Newport, Cool, Salem, Benson and Hedges, Black and brown folks are the ones that use those products. And so they are trying to, and have successfully in Northern California, it's already been banned. Oakland and I think San Francisco, and they're trying to ban it in the entire state of New Jersey. So it's quietly happening. People don't know what's going on, and that's why I came out with the article. I have spoken to the city council in Los Angeles, who are currently trying to make a determination as to whether or not they want to vote to ban menthol products here in Los Angeles. And listen, if they do, then, it's a crime. And, it's kind of like the whole Lucy cigarette thing, right? Because people are already upset when the police stop you for, not having any wind on your windshield, or, your third tail light's not working, right? Pretext traffic stops. Could you imagine a police officer pulls you over because he says he smells tobacco? Is that a cool cigarette you're smoking? I need to talk to you. Could you imagine how outraged people would be? Because nobody is going to believe it when it happens, because many of us are asleep at the wheel. And so when, police have the ability, probable cause, reasonable suspicion, to believe that you are engaging in a prohibited activity, possession of a banned menthol tobacco product, is going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. And so, we need to pay attention, and we need to, anybody but, because it's not going to get any better anytime soon, I don't think. And while, listen, I get that politicians, all of them are a little bit grimy anyway, but I just do not believe that there was a Democrat in the White House that they would be breaking down the institutions that are being disassembled right now. I don't believe it. So pay attention, you guys. Don't cut your nose to spite your face again. Don't cut your nose to spite your face. Pay attention. Many of these people that are making decisions are elected positions. Sheriffs are elected positions. Prosecutors are elected. Police chiefs serve at the pleasure of mayors who are elected. So anyway, pay attention. Also, I talked about this, and I want to revisit it because this is really troubling to me. There was a 10-year-old Black kid who is currently, he was in court today. So I'll find out if I can. It's juvenile, so it may not be available, but I'm going to see if I can find out what happened with this little boy, 10-year-old Black kid playing dodgeball at school, elementary school, and a little white boy got hit in the head with a doggone dodgeball. And this happened back in April 29th. Mother of the Black boy was, concerned that the kid got hurt, but didn't think much more was going to happen beyond her son being suspended from school. And so very recently they charged him with a crime. And so he was in juvenile court today, and come to find out that, now the mother of this little white kid says that, he suffered a concussion and facial fractures or tears or something. Now it's being reported that this kid has a medical condition. And so his mom knew that he had a medical condition. Whether or not she shared that with the school staff, I don't know. But if, they did know, and if they didn't know, I'm going to say, like the police department, if you didn't know, you should have known. This kid should have been wearing a doggone helmet or a bubble suit or something. If he's got a condition that precludes him from getting involved in activities that kids do on a schoolyard, how is that the 10-year-old's fault? The whole purpose of dodgeball is to hit the person. And so now this 10-year-old kid is today over in Wayne County Juvenile Court in Canton, Michigan, facing some very, very serious charges. And so, if you've never had someone accused of something falsely, I have. I know that. And as a mother, there is nothing that I would not do, did not do to make sure that my son didn't get railroaded. It's expensive. Criminal defense is expensive. And so this mom is now, doing fundraisers and all of that, because you don't want to leave this in the hands of a public defender. You want to make sure that your child is properly represented. And so I don't know if they're going to be okay. The kid has a concussion. He has a pre-existing situation. And if in juvenile court, they decide that knowing that seemed a little excessive to charge this kid who's never been in any trouble, I'm assuming, the mother's still going to be out of money. This could break her financial back. This could break her financial back. And listen, it's not like they don't know that, right? Because, there was no indication back in April that they were going to be pressing criminal charges against her son. And so this, kind of popped up on her all of a sudden. So, I'm bothered by it because having 4 sons, I know what it is. I know how it is to have white female particularly, because that's what I dealt with, administrators who want to label your kids and call them a thing and accuse them of stuff. And so parents, you need to advocate for your children. You need to be involved, and you need to be at those schools, go to those parent meetings, and listen and have input about how they may be trying to define your child, because you never know. If you're quiet in one moment, how that might come back later on and create some kind of a pattern in their mind, because you didn't say anything before, so therefore it must have been true. And now we have an even bigger deal that we're accusing your child of. And so where there's smoke, there's fire, when you know that there's nothing that couldn't be further from the truth. There was an article in 2017 in the New York Times, and it talked about, students being suspended and how, these suspensions disproportionately affect Black children. It said that in Arkansas, for instance, in 2012, school year 2012, Black students were 5 times more likely to be suspended than white kids. And while that was Arkansas that they were speaking to, it's not unique to Arkansas, because the same kind of statistics were found in other northern states, in Illinois, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And the statistics in Illinois, Michigan, and Wisconsin were greater than 5 times, And so you understand that having that kind of a history, having that kind of a record for school can be a disqualifier for all sorts of other things. And so to label this little guy as some kind of a, monster at 10 for playing dodgeball, because a kid who has a pre-existing condition and probably shouldn't have been playing dodgeball got hurt, I think is just a real injustice. And so I'm going to try to find out what happened in court with this little guy and see if I can report it back to you when we next get together. And now I'm going to call this open mouth, insert foot, because there's a lot of that going on with this R. Kelly situation. His it was his publicist, and then he was his crisis prevention manager, something, said something last week that got him shown the door. He wouldn't have any pedophile work for him. And so, yeah, once, I guess R. Kelly may not be able to read, but he can hear. And so they got rid of that guy. And so now R. Kelly he's doing, damage himself. He's self-inflicting right now. He's trying to get out of jail on bail pending his trial, but his attorneys filed some kind of paperwork. And in the paperwork, it says that the alleged victims were really nothing more than disgruntled groupies. These were a bunch of disgruntled groupies. And so therefore he should be out on bail until his trial. And he says that, these were people, these groupies, these disgruntled groupies, the alleged victims were women who were trying to seek his attention and fought each other for his attention. He says that they voluntarily contacted him, they came to his shows, and they pined to be with him, according to documentation submitted by his attorneys. And so now they say that these ladies, at least 5 of them, have only come forward because they want to be famous. Now, listen, I don't know in what world coming forward and saying that you were the victim of an assault that wound up giving you some kind of venereal disease is helpful. To be known as the girl that slept with R. Kelly and might possibly have herpes or chlamydia or whatever else they say he's serving. I don't know how that's helpful, but nonetheless, this is the premise under which R. Kelly is telling a judge they're disgruntled groupies. And so can I go home and just, do what I do? We'll see what happens with that. And in other, sex offender news, Jeffrey Epstein allegedly last week was found unconscious in his cell with some injuries to his neck. Now, I don't know if the inference is that somebody else tried to hurt him or if he was trying to kill himself, but he was in court on today, I believe as well, today or yesterday. And it was reported that he looked fine. They didn't see any evidence of any injuries, not to say that he didn't have one or have some, but they said that he seemed to be, he presented quite well in court. And so the prosecutor is now asking for a trial date, June 2020. So if, he's on a no bail hold as well. And, he may have to sit there until, next June. Now, this is a criminal trial, and, everybody's entitled to a speedy trial, June 2020. I don't know if that's really all that speedy. And I say that because you guys know I've been talking about my LAUSD situation, and I was supposed to go to court July 15th. That's why I've been waiting to, put my book out. Some of you have been asking about my book. And so, yes, my trial was again continued. So I cannot make my book available to the public until I go to trial. And, I was set to go. This is my third continuance now. My trial was first scheduled for September of last year. Then it was trailed to February of this year. In February of this year, my judge was promoted and moved to another court. And so we were given a different judge. Now, the different judge that we were given, coincidentally, years ago, used to work in a law firm with one of the LA Unified School District attorneys. We knew that. This judge made it known. My attorney wrote a brief and said, hey, it's all good. We are happy with you. Let's let this thing continue on. We believe you can be fair in spite of all of that. Now, the LAUSD attorney is not trying my case anymore. He was the one who deposed me, but my case has been given to an outside firm. So we're like, what's the big deal? The judge knew all this. This was a conversation that was had on paper, back in March. Why the judge waited until July 3rd to recuse himself, I don't know. And so when the judge did that, it kicked me out of his court and sent me back to the calendar court where we had to wait, which we've been doing for the last 2 weeks, to get assigned to a new court. We are now in a new court, but because, we have to get in line, my trial is now moved back till when? 2020. August 2020 is when my trial is now set to go. So, I'm not happy about it, you guys. I share this with you because if there's anybody else out there who's listening or who's, just starting your marathon, know that this is what they do. This is the game that they play. Now, I'm not saying that the judge was playing a game. I don't know, but I'm just saying I've been waiting to have my say since 2016 is when we first filed with the court. 2016, even though I had been gathering documentation since 2014 in anticipation that one day I might wind up in court. So here it is, August 2019. I'm still waiting to get into court. I'm still waiting to be heard. And so, it's all good. I am ready for the fight whenever they're ready. And so, for anybody who may be going through something similar or who may be about to embark on something like this because you have been dealt with in a way that's inappropriate, just know that it's a long grind. It's a long, hard grind, and you got to pace yourself. And, it's not personal, it's business. I'm not happy, but whenever they're ready for the fight, I'm ready for the fight. So I understand, why Epstein, is not going to trial until 2020. And that's a criminal trial where you're entitled a speedy trial. His may go before mine, but nonetheless, that's where we are. For those of you that wanted to know, I'm still waiting, and I will keep you apprised of how that thing works its way through the system. So that's it. It's been a long, exhausting, debilitating week for me, you guys. I'm going to go, I haven't had a butt cake in a couple of days, so I may be due. I got to be good to me. I always say nobody's better to me than me, right? I had a very great visit the other day. Some of my colleagues may have seen the picture of our colleague, Ryan Ron Kelly had breakfast with me the other morning, and so Ron, shout out to you. I think I know you're listening. It was really great, just sitting down, chopping it up, doing what coppers do, sea stories, right? Talking about, back in the day, remember this, that. Did you hear about this? So I really appreciate you spending some time with me and doing that. And so, to that end, I put out there, any of my family that, wants to break bread with me, hit a sister up, let me know, because I'm a foodie, and nothing makes me happier than, shoving food in my mouth. So I may need to get with a couple of you to find my happy place. So that's it, you guys. Listen, for those of you that are new to my rambling, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, thank you. Welcome, welcome. Visit my website, www.sgt.CherylDorsey.com. SGT being the abbreviation for Sergeant. Thank you for the hearts, you guys. Aww. That makes me happy. I appreciate that. You guys are amazing. Thank you for watching. To my newbies, to my first timers, go to my podcast, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, on the platform of your choice. Subscribe so that you will get notifications every Tuesday when new content drops. Visit my YouTube channel. For my YouTube subbies, thank you so much. I appreciate the engagement. I appreciate the interaction. Hashtag tell a friend. For those of you with me here on Facebook, share, like, follow Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, tell a friend, and till next time, you guys, you know what's up. Be good. Be safe.